Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Scott Luton and Mary Kate Love with you here on Supply Chain. Now, welcome to today's live stream. Mary Kate, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Excited for this one where we've got some amazing guests.
We sure do. Home run panel, rock and roll panel, startups, entrepreneurs on the move, those things and more will be key themes for today's discussion. So I trust you had a good weekend, Mary Kate, and may have gotten a little break from the heat. Is that right?
Yeah, we did. It's still humid here in Chicago and pretty hot, but we had some rain, so it cooled it down a little bit at different times.
Outstanding. Rain is good, right? Especially when you don't have a green thumb like I do. I've tried growing tomatoes. I've tried growing
Yeah, I'm the
flowers.
same.
I just can't. I can't find a good a plant
Me
that
neither.
wants to work as hard as I do, Mary Kate. Huh?
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. I can't have the focus on it.
No, I got to move on. Let's talk
Yeah,
supply chain. How about that?
yes.
Today, folks, it's the buzz. Every Monday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we discuss a variety of news and developments today across global supply chain and business. We've got some great stories to get into. A tough investment market for logistics startups in particular. AI's surprising impact on energy infrastructure and a whole bunch more. As Mary Kate has let the cat out of the bag, we got a great panel of special guests doing big things in the industry. They'll be joining us about 12:25 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're welcoming in, Beth Flippo with Drone Express, Reade Kidd with EDRAY, and Dan White with Venture 53. So, folks, buckle up and get ready. Mary Kate, we've assembled quite a panel. Folks may be asking for autographs later, huh?
That's right. That's what I think. I mean, this is going to be a great group, lots of different experiences, personalities, perspectives. So it'll be a great conversation.
I mean, it's not quite like getting Taylor Swift on the buzz, but it's real close, real close.
We'll get her next week.
Okay. Hey, two things before we get going here today. For all of our folks out there that joined us from across the globe, whether you're tuned into LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitch, no matter, hey, let us know what you think. Drop the comments there in the chat. We'd love to get you to weigh in on what we're going to be tackling here today. And if you enjoy the show, we'd love for you to share it with a friend, your network, your parents, your family, you name it. Sharing is caring, and appreciate everyone being here today. Okay, Mary Kate. Before we bring on our panel, we've got to get to work. We've got to eat our peas, as a past guest has mentioned on the show. Let's talk about with that said. So, Mary Kate, we dropped this over the weekend. It is our almost weekly newsletter. We like to bake in a little flexibility there, don't we, Mary Kate?
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case. So, in this edition, we talked about how CEO roles are evolving due in large part to the ever-changing cyber risk. No more can CEOs be really detached from how organizations are planning their cyber strategy and more.
Yeah.
Mary Kate, for the first time in history, U.S. employees at Apple will be unionizing, right? How about that?
Yeah.
The age of the workforce continues to make gains, huh?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, that was a super interesting one. I hadn't really been keeping track of that either.
Well, stay tuned. We're going to all learn a lot more about that. We also celebrated the Africa Supply Chain Excellence Awards and their winners. That was announced last week. A lot of good stuff over there. Great leadership by Claire Fincham, Jenny Froome, and many others. And we try to make it convenient for all of our listeners out there and viewers and community members. We include links to all of our live programming for the week ahead in each edition. Mary Kate, we also had a little fun. The Olympics have started. Have you caught any of the Olympics thus far?
Oh, yeah, I love the Olympics, so I try to catch as much of it as I can. Obviously, I watch a lot of replays rather than live, so I try not to spoil the endings for myself too much. But yeah, I watch a lot of swimming, gymnastics, handball, which is a sport I didn't know a lot about, and then, of course, the opening ceremonies. How about you guys?
Watched the U.S. Men's basketball team
Yep.
play a good Serbia team yesterday, and they ran away in the second half.
Close in the beginning.
It was tight for much of the first half, but Kevin Durant, I think, played his biggest role yet and just was dominating. So that was really cool to see. So with the Olympics having started, we kind of took a playful take at if global supply chain had their Olympics, and they really do. The Global Supply Chain Olympiad has been going on since the caveman days, right? It's
Yeah.
time. So regardless, check out With That Said that we dropped over the weekend and let us know what you think. We included a link to that, real convenient, right there in the chat. So you're one click away, and let us know what you think. Okay. So one other thing, piece of news, Mary Kate, that is almost as big as the Olympics getting started, and that is a new initiative that we've got here at Supply Chain Now. Really excited. We've launched this year for the first time. It's the first annual Transportation Management Technology Survey. Supply Chain Now is partnering with RateLinks on this research project focused on the fast-moving world of transportation tech, and we welcome your participation. So, Mary Kate, ask me, hey, what's in it for me? What's the good old whiff 'em? Ask me that.
Why should I do this, Scott?
Okay. I'm glad you asked. Hey, folks, you can help us uncover industry challenges, old and new. You can influence technology advancements and innovations. You can benchmark your practices with what you learn, and you will gain valuable insights as all participants will be receiving the full 2024 Transportation Management Technology Report that we're releasing in less than 3 months in October. So, folks, we're dropping a link to that in the chat. Big thanks to our friends at RateLinks. And we're really excited about what we'll glean from the industry, both where we are and where we're headed. Pretty cool stuff. Ain't it right, Mary Kate?
Yeah, I love stuff like that. You know, when you see data collected, I feel like every time we do a survey like that or insights, we always learn something new, or maybe we dispel a belief we had. So definitely encourage our network to join in on that.
Awesome. Good stuff there. All right. So, Mary Kate, again, we've got an outstanding panel joining us in about 15 minutes. So, folks, stay tuned for that. And as we were just touching on, with that said, some of the CEOs, some of the entrepreneurial movers and shakers, and then, of course, transportation technology, our panel is touching a lot of that, driving a lot of action across industry. So you're not going to want to miss our special interview here momentarily. But before they join us, we got some work to do. I want to get into the first item that we're going to tackle here today. Now, Mary Kate, you know I love sharing good news, right?
Yeah.
However, we got to be realistic and put on our big britches from time to time. So let's dive in about this interesting read from our friends at McKinsey. So now, as we've spoken about regularly here on the Buds, it's been a tough investment market in the supply chain startup world for a few years now, especially when we specifically look at logistics startups. Or maybe, Mary Kate, we might be still coming down from the massive investment activity in the market a couple of years ago, right?
Right.
So check this out. And I'm going to get your take in just a second, Mary Kate, especially with all of your experience having been involved in the startup community for years now. So McKinsey reports, after a record-breaking, unprecedented $25.6 billion in recorded venture funding, all in 2021, last year, 2023, saw only $2.9 billion, which represented the lowest level of funding since 2015. Now, logistics startups only accounted for 0.8% of venture investments in 2023, down from about 3% in the preceding 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, lots of macro and micro reasons here, Mary Kate, but to mention a couple ones. High interest rates tend to decrease venture investment in general, right? And we'll see. Well, I think inflation's starting to come down just enough, or we might see maybe a couple rate cuts by the end of the year. We'll see. The shipping industry isn't quite the profitable bonanza it was a few years back, especially during the pandemic, right? Also, e-commerce spending growth has slowed. It was about 10 to 15% annual growth pre-pandemic, spiking to 29% growth in 2020. Well, that spending growth now sits around 5%, right? So it's cooled off dramatically. Now, two areas in logistics startups. Here's some good news. Two areas in logistics startups that have seen increased investment in the last couple of years. Final mile, hot space.
Makes sense.
And software and systems startups, right? As folks look to get more, leverage AI, which we'll tackle in just a second, and a whole bunch more. Now, where do we go from here? Last thought, and then I'm going to get you to weigh in, Mary Kate. Well, predictions vary widely, but the logistics sector accounts for about 10% of GDP, so a rebound in investment activity certainly seems likely. So, Mary Kate, your thoughts? You've been involved in startup space for a long time, especially in this supply chain startup space. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this one is definitely one I've been keeping a finger to the pulse on because I was in startups when funding was a little bit lower, right? And it was harder to go out and get funding. It was still available, of course. And then I was in the VC world when funding was at an all-time high. So it was really a founder's game at that time. So I guess I was kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time in a way, right? But I wondered when I see these numbers and how big they are. I believe in all these other macro environments too, but I wonder if we just hit such a high level. Some of these huge investment firms were spending an unbelievable amount of money per month, and it was kind of the like, hey, spend as much as you can and hope something hits. More complicated than that, of course, but kind of that motto. And I wonder if all the macro events that happen, plus maybe we just hit a wall with spending, is kind of right sizing itself a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear what our listeners say too, and even some of our panelists, because they're in it right now. But that's just my experience over the last 10 years or so in startups and then in VC. It's always like an investor's game or a founder's game. It's like a little bit of a balance there.
That's right. Well, and also kind of to your point, one of the points you're making, it's been a bit of a perfect storm the last couple of years.
Yeah.
With some economic headwinds, certainly some freight market headwinds.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when you got some of the main big drivers that's really driving not just new startups, but success, funding, and more. When you got those things kind of slowing down a bit, that's interesting. And then, of course, the valuation. It's really interesting to see what's all the activity and the discussions and the disagreements going on when it comes to valuations of said startup community. So we'll keep our finger on the pulse of it, though.
Yeah.
Maybe all four of them. And we'll see if the panel weighs in as well.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And folks, y'all check it out. We dropped a link to that article from our friends at McKinsey. We dropped that in the chat. Check it out for yourself. I think one other trend I saw, Mary Kate, is geographically where they are making the investment. Yeah. There's been some shifts there. Asia had dominated the logistics startup space. And then last year in 2023, North America really began to make some big strides. So we'll see how it goes from here.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Hey, Charles Brennan, great to see you via LinkedIn. Let us know where you're tuned in from. I think he's talking about the TM Tech report that we're going to publish in October. Charles, I'm excited too. I'm looking forward to seeing how the market weighs in there. Thanks for being here. And again, let us know where you're tuned in from. And LK from South Georgia is back with us. LK, we got to get you connected with our friends at the Association for Manufacturing Excellence for our last Buzz conversation. So stay tuned for that. But great to have you here today, as always. Okay, so Mary Kate, we've got another great read that we want to get into here today, and that is what's going on. Hang on a sec. Before we get to the AI story, I got one quick resource I want to share with all of y'all from our friends at Omnia Partners, CFO Dive and Supply Chain Dive. Now, Mary Kate, we love resources, especially quality resources that aren't sales pitches. We love all that, right, Mary Kate?
Yes, we love it.
Okay, folks, that's what this is, right? It's a free guide entitled Spend Visibility from Analysis to Action. Folks, visibility is not good enough, but rather it's all about the decisions and outcomes that visibility enables. Great resource here. We're dropping a link to the comments there in the chat. And folks, it's also free to join the powerful community that Omnia Partners is building. You can put their contracts and connections to use right away. You can learn more at omniapartners.com. Okay. Now this is interesting. You like the graphic there, Mary Kate? Yeah. That should be AI kind of sucking energy and water from infrastructure.
Water, yeah.
So, and those
tell AI made that image.
Yes. How could you tell? All right. So check this out. Let's talk about a little different angle when it comes to artificial intelligence that we think more and more leaders and organizations are going to be much, much more aware of in the months to come. Now, Mary Kate, we tout the golden age of AI all the time, right? Mm-hmm. Many of our conversations reflect some of the brilliant innovation that AI is bringing, not just to global supply chain, but to the entire world. However, as with everything else in life, there are plenty of trade-offs, right? So intriguing read here from CNBC that really focuses on artificial intelligence and its impact, especially on the U.S. energy infrastructure, as well as our efforts to make bigger sustainability gains. Now, Mary Kate, you like factoids?
Love them.
Okay,
You know I
wonderful.
love data too.
You know, that's right. Mary Kate, you're a super data competitor. I'll tell you what. All right, check this out. So did you know that one chat GPT query uses nearly 10 times the energy as a typical Google search? Did you know that?
No, that blew my mind, truly.
Seriously. And that's just like, imagine how many of that happens each and every day, right?
I know. From me
Such
personally
as,
too, I'm just like, oh gosh.
hey, such as this picture right here.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
upset about it.
Exactly.
Did you know that training a single large language model can produce as much CO2 as the entire lifetime of 5 gas-powered cars? How about that?
Wild.
Wild stuff. Wild stuff. Oh, who said that back? I think that was Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon back in the day. All right. Now, to accommodate the AI explosion, right? Because lots of great things, a lot of wonderful, innovative, massively positive impact that AI is driving. But data centers are being built across the globe at a frenzied pace. So there's about 8,000 data centers globally today, Mary Kate, with probably the plurality of those in the States. Boston Consulting Group estimates demand for data centers will rise 15 to 20% every year through 2030.
Wow.
And by then, data centers are projected to account for 16% of total U.S. power consumption. Now, you're like, okay, is that a lot or is that little? Well, today, data centers use somewhere between 2 and 5% of total electricity in the U.S. And to kind of bring it home a bit, I recall a few years ago, I want to say 8 years ago, Mary Kate, hey, I'm getting old. My 3 kids have ruined my memory. I think it was 8 years ago. Meta, then at the time, Facebook, opened a big server farm here in Georgia, and instantly the site was reported as being one of Georgia Power's biggest electricity customers. That is when a lot of this hit my radar. Of course, that was before the golden age of AI. AI has, of course, been around for a long time, but that was before this age we're in now. In fact, it's being reported here that Meta is building an AI-focused data center in Kansas City, and the local government is so concerned about its impact on the local power grid that they've paused plans to close a coal-fired power plant, just in case. So the good news here, potential solutions being looked at, and this is a short list of a much longer list. Green energy, especially solar. Solar is making massive strides globally. We reported on that earlier, Mary Kate. Geothermal applications as well. I wish I knew exactly what that was. I'm going to have to call my Aunt Edna, the scientist. We'll get the rundown there.
Yeah.
Even mini nuclear reactors are what companies big and small and municipalities are looking at. Now, of course, if we didn't hit on the immense, we didn't even hit on the immense water supplies that are needed to cool many current and future data centers. So, Mary Kate, your thoughts when it comes to the good and the bad, right? And the challenging. It comes with progress, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was going to say. Anytime we have progress or new technology, there is always a big con or a big problem that we have to figure out in order to use this technology responsibly, quite frankly. So I'm not totally deterred by this problem. It is bigger than I had thought. I had no idea about how much power a simple query would be on, ChatGPT or a similar tool. I'm interested to see how this problem is solved. I like how this article already came up with some solutions. I'm interested to see some of the regulations and laws and how long it will take for kind of our governing bodies to catch up and start to put these out there, and then how we're all going to manage that too. So more to come in how we solve it, more to come in how it's ruled and regulated, but it doesn't make me less excited about AI. I think it's a really big hurdle we have to get through, but we will get through.
That's right. Folks, y'all should check out the article. Well said there, Mary Kate. And it deserves such we could be here for 3 weeks talking about this one area of global industry. But folks, check out the article. It's a great read. And if all this is new to you, you really need to dive into this great piece by CNBC. It talks about how there's been a ton of work put into semiconductors that use far less power, right?
Yeah.
And also the demand for water for cooling a lot of these facilities, it's remarkable, the scale of it all. But
Yeah.
I agree with you. Anytime you take 7 steps forward, you're going to
Yeah.
have a couple steps you come back. And Mary Kate, as the resident super data competitor that you are, I think one of the things that jumps out in my mind is how how reporting is getting trickier, right? As we look to get more transparency in the progress that organizations are making, that equation doesn't do it justice. That algorithm is going to have some new variables and into the mix. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see where we go from here.
Yep, agreed.
All right. Let's see. Larry says, are we going to see generators powering AI? That's like having a generator in the trunk of your Tesla.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe so. We'll see. We're going to see some creative approaches here, Larry. You name it. All right. So, Mary Kate, we have got an outstanding panel joining us here today. Folks that aren't talking about changing how business is done, they're doing it. So, really excited for our conversation. You ready to welcome in our panel?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's welcome in Beth Flippo, CEO at Drone Express, Reade Kidd, co-founder and CEO at EDRAY, and Dan White, founder and general partner with Venture 53. Hey, how are we doing? We'll start with Dan. Dan, how you doing today?
Doing great.
Great to see you. Atlanta's usually home. You're up in the beautiful city of Boston here today. Great to have you here on The Buzz. Beth Flippo, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Great to see you again. Really enjoyed seeing you and Reade in action in Atlanta a month or so ago. Of course, Beth, you call Dayton, Ohio home. And Reade Kidd, how are you doing?
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you. And I love that. I love the vest. Mary Kate, we're going to have to work on getting some merch.
Yeah, we got to get better.
Of course, Reade, who was walking us through an incredible journey, him and Beth both. Reade calls Charlotte, the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, home. So great to see all three of y'all here today. Now, Mary Kate, we let the cat out of the bag in the green room. We got a great fun warm-up question. Do you have any idea, Mary Kate, what today is?
Tell us, Scott.
Okay, wonderful. Music to my ears, always. But back in 1977, the city of Buffalo, New York, declared that July 29th would be celebrated as Chicken Wing Day each and every year. Highfalutin stuff here on The Buzz. Of course, this was in honor of Teresa Bellissimo, I think I said that right, and her colleagues at the legendary Anchor Bar there in Buffalo, which most historians give credit to for at least popularizing chicken wings, aka buffalo wings, back in the day. So with that in mind, and let's see, Larry and Charles, hey, Dr. Joshua, all of y'all weigh in too. We're going to take a quick pulse of our panel to find out where we can get the best chicken wings this side of the Milky Way. So let's see, Beth Flippo, let's start with you. Where can we find the best chicken wings of all time?
So out here in Dayton, there's a great restaurant called TJ Chumps, and they're actually growing really fast. They've got a bunch of them, but the one I go to is in Miamisburg, and definitely the best wings.
Oh, that sounds TJ Chumps. Is that what you said?
That's right.
And what a creative name. I have to go check that out next time I'm up.
You can tell it's good by the name.
Right.
All right. So that's one vote for TJ Chumps. How about you, Reade? Where's the best place?
It's in Atlanta, Georgia, not too far away from Dan. It's a place called Clay's Sports Cafe. The owner's a guy named Al, so he's not Clay. Best server in town, Jenny, is taking care of my 3 boys for years. It was kind of our kitchen away from the kitchen during COVID and other times. So 5975 Roswell Road, just outside the perimeter. Check them out. The Buffalo Basket's the way to go. Tell them we said, hey, we'll get a supply chain now discount for 10% for the next 5 people to go.
There we go.
Oh, that is awesome. Reade, I love that. And I love you. You're basically a spokesperson for Clay's Sports Cafe. Love that. And the relationship there. Okay. Dan White. Now, you're in Boston now. Maybe you found some good grub up there. But when you're home in Atlanta, where's the best place to find chicken wings?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Bradley's. Bradley's Kitchen and Bar, just off of Roswell Road. Extra crispy, swimming, both blue cheese and ranch.
Oh, man. You have me at extra crispy. That's
Yeah.
the only way to eat wings. I'm telling y'all, extra crispy. So love that, Dan. Let's see. We're making TJ, Clay, or Al, and Bradley's very happy here today. Mary Kate, how about you? Where's the best place to get wings?
All right, so you guys are going to hate me, but I don't like wings. However, I have a good suggestion in Chicago. There's a place called Flo and Santos, and it's actually got some of my favorite pizza in Chicago. So you can go for the wings, which are, per my husband, the best in Chicago, and for the
Okay.
pizza, which is definitely, I would say, my top 5 in Chicago.
Oh, let's get both. Flo and Santos when you're visiting Chicago next. Love that. Let's see. Larry Klein says this should be A-Town Wings. A-Town Wings down in Albany, Georgia. I bet I said it wrong. Albany, Georgia. And he says it's just outside the Marine base. We're going to check that out. Okay. And I want to welcome in Dr. Joshua from Nigeria. Great to see you here via LinkedIn. Let us know what you think as we work through these topics here today with an outstanding panel. Okay. Now that we're all starving with some delicious chicken wings from across the states, and stay tuned, there'll be parades here on Chicken Wing Day in many municipalities. I want to start this. I want to share some context with our audience. We've talked about the big things you are doing, Reade and Beth and Dan, out in the industry. We're going to learn more about Drone Express and EDRAY in just a second. But Dan, Beth and Reade, and of course, our organizations were deemed Venture 53's Field Day winners a month or two ago. And I certainly enjoyed being part of the festivities, hosted a great panel there. We might touch on that later in the conversation. But if you would, Dan, tell us, what was Venture 53's Field Day in the Big Peach all about?
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. And thanks for having us. Venture 53's Field Day was part of a conference we do for our LPs and our investors, along with our portfolio companies. And what we really set out to do was almost the anti-conference, small conference, just with bankers, founders and funders. And as part of that, we had about 20 companies that presented, just 7 minutes apiece. And we had a panel, each one had a panel between a banker and a successful exited founder, and then a VC that became the judges. And these are 2 of our winners here today.
Outstanding. I love the ecosystem that was on full display there at this event, bringing people from all different aspects of industry, whether they're fearless founders like Reade and Beth and many others, or folks that are supporting them in a variety of different ways, or folks, leaders from industry that really, they don't just have their finger on the pulse. They're doing it in many cases, right? Mary Kate, that sounds like a powerful ecosystem that folks need to be a part of, huh?
Yeah, I love these kind of intentional anti-conference, if you will, because that's where you can always make the best connections and really, do business in a different way.
Yep, that's right. And even another great element. I love the anti-conference. We gotta copyright that, Mary Kate. I love it. But I bet the connections that folks Reade and Beth make, even with each other as they benchmark different aspects of the journey, powerful stuff. But let's hear from them. Now, Beth, I think I even shared your presentation, your pitch that you shared, because Drone Express is one of only a handful of companies to have its Part 135 application accepted by the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA. Now, some folks out there listening or viewing may know what that's all about, but for folks that don't, because I bet there's a lot of folks that don't, tell us about the Part 135 application process and why it's so important.
So the Part 135 is what we refer to as the Holy Grail here. It is the only path to fly cargo for compensation in the national airspace. So it is the same certificate that FedEx has to fly cargo or American Airlines has to fly passengers. You need to get this Part 135, and it's a lot of work and manuals and documentation, how you operate, how you train your pilots, what you can fly. All of these things and you're talking thousands and thousands of pages, and it takes years to be able to get certified to show that you're operating in a safe way. And that's why it's taken so long for drones to get into the national airspace. But we've finally had ours accepted, and we're part of just a handful of very large companies that were able to get this. Amazon, Google, Zipline.
We're talking like 5 or 6 companies, right, Beth?
Yeah.
Wow.
it.
So, Mary Kate, I got excited about that, and I skipped right over. We want to make sure folks tell us about what they do. See, Beth, I got real excited with that stuff. So now we've led with one of only a handful of companies has done. Let's shed a little more context. Tell us more about what Drone Express does.
So we are building a brand new marketplace where you can get everything you want delivered right to your door in under 15 minutes using autonomous aircraft. So we partner with the local retailers and use them as our distribution centers. And we provide the mechanism for people to get anything they want delivered with the same benefits that Amazon has. So you can get unlimited delivery for a low monthly fee and not have to worry about tipping, not have to worry about a minimum, order quantity. And the big difference is just that you get it in 15 minutes. So we think it's pretty outstanding.
That is exciting. Mary Kate, we're talking about, and by the way, I love y'all's tagline, delivery at the speed of now. We love that around here.
Right.
Mary Kate, first, react to what Beth and her team's doing at Drone Express, including that Part 135 massive achievement. Your thoughts, Mary Kate?
Yeah, that's so impressive. When you said a handful, I didn't know it was quite literally a handful of other companies that had the same achievement there. But as a consumer, right, this is so easy to get excited about. I mean, I can think of so many use cases for this, as I'm sure our listeners are too. But like we said in pre-show, everybody is excited about drone delivery, right?
Yes.
Right.
Well, Beth, Reade, Dan, and Mary Kate, Amanda in the private chat says, hey, oh my gosh, Beth, sign us up.
Yeah.
So Amanda is ready to go. Big tip and hat to Amanda and Catherine behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Drone Express, revolutionizing the local shopping experience. What you want when you want it. Love that. Dan, before we move over to Reade and EDRAY, who's also doing some really cool things out in the industry, changing how business is done. Dan, comment. Obviously, you are big supporters in Drone Express. Is this type of innovation and changing how things get done, does it really reflect what you are after?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that's going on right now, and you guys talked about it in your earlier segment, was we're just kind of experiencing kind of a digestion of all the dollars that came in. And I always call that kind of bit of a fool's rush in, right? So a lot of money came in, but potentially a lot of foolish money. And so what we're seeing right now is a number of these startups that are out there going out and having to prove themselves. So we're kind of in that kind of lull of big companies trying to make sure that what they bought, it works. And so I think when you look at EDRAY and you look at Drone Express, these are both things that are going to be around for a long time and advancing, where we're at, in supply chain today.
Mm-hmm.
Well said. And love the fool's rush in analogy.
Yeah.
I think that was also a song by Paula Abdul back in the day. I could be wrong there. Good stuff. All right, Beth, home run stuff. But don't go anywhere. We're going to get you weigh in and offer some advice to our audience here further in the conversation. So, Reade, tell us more, if you would, about EDRAY first, and then we're going to talk more about port logistics in a second. Reade, tell us what EDRAY does.
Yeah, Scott, thanks for having me, and Dan, thanks for the awards on the V53 side. So even if I did know if Fools Rush In is a Paul Abdul song, I would not say that because it'd be I'm just not sure on that. No, so EDRAY is a technology and managed transportation company.
And we might have lost a connection. That happens from time to time, folks. This is live. This is live. All right, we got Reade back. Okay. All right, so Reade, sorry. We'll start from the top, other than the Paul Abdul joke.
Yeah, we heard that part.
I'm not repeating that one for sure. So EDRAY is in this interesting space where technology and managed transportation come together. Our focus is squarely on the import side, and we think that the hardest part, which is when vessels and ports and customs and all of these things come together through what we call the final import mile. So our customers, the importer, the shipper, the retailer, the folks that are ultimately getting their goods through a drone with Beth. And so we're a bit further up in the supply chain doing what we do. It's an active tech with a team of 20 people here in the office that are building all the time. We've got a great team of operators that sit here and out in California. They're managing that freight, and a whole host of innovation, insight, new ideas and initiatives that come on top of that.
Man, Outstanding. On the move. And I love this tagline. I was on both Drone Express and EDRAY's websites earlier. Your import supply chain is complicated, but it doesn't have to be. More on that in just a minute, folks. Mary Kate, what'd you hear there from the EDRAY perspective?
Well, I love just thinking about how all parts of the supply chain are connected here, right? And this happens a lot of times in our conversations where we are reminded just how complicated supply chain is, but how solutions like EDRAY can help you manage those complications.
That's right. That's right. There's a better way. And if there isn't today, we'll invent one. That's exactly what Beth, Reade, and teams are doing. All right. So, Dan, if you would comment on EDRAY and what Reade shared there, as well as let's just level set once more. You kind of touched on it in the field day answer. Let's make sure folks know what Venture 53 does. But first, what'd you hear there from Reade?
Yeah, we love it. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest pinch points for during COVID and post-COVID is just getting things through the ports. And that's the first point of failure when you hit the ground here in the U.S. And so big opportunity for us to invest in companies like that. One of our biggest investments is EDRAY.
Outstanding. And speaking of investments, y'all hadn't slowed down, powering lots of things. Really quickly, what Venture 53 does in a nutshell?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's painfully easy on the Venture 53. 53 is the largest tractor trailer that can be on the road today. So that's the cliche of maximum value. But we do five supply chain verticals, if you will. So from warehousing tech, last mile, autonomous supply chain management, and freight tech. Those are the five. And then we do three things to help those companies, which is marketing, sales, and the tech stack.
Outstanding. Love it. And folks, we're dropping so you can learn more about what Drone Express, EDRAY, and Venture 53. Don't take our word for it. Check it out. We've dropped the URLs right there in the chat for all three of the organizations. And of course, you can connect with their leaders across LinkedIn. More on that here momentarily towards the last part of the show. Okay. And Beth, I should say, before I move over to EDRAY and talk about the ports for a second, Dan's colleague, Pat Martin, and Reade, I think you and Dan both heard this at the event at the anti-conference. Gotta be careful when I say that, Mary Kate. Made a bold prediction at Venture 53. Pat Martin did. He predicted that everyone in the room would have a package delivered to them by drones in the next 2 years. So the race is on. And Beth, you fully support and approve that prediction, huh?
Absolutely. I think it's really driven by the demand that the demand for delivery is not slowing down at all, especially fast delivery. And yeah, everybody wants it. So it's a really driven market where, some people ask me what keeps me up at night, how fast we are going to be pulled to roll out. That's right. That's our biggest hurdle really to handle at this point.
Well, don't lose too much sleep. We need you. We need you, and as you lead this segment of industry. And let's make those nice-looking robots and drones. I've seen some images of folks that walk and making like pizza deliveries and stuff. Not real friendly. Let's make them real nice, like Mr. Rogers or something. Okay. All right.
Well, on that, it's actually I'm having a female-run aviation company. A lot has actually spent on our aesthetics, which I don't think are normal in robotics. But,
I love it.
That's probably true. Yeah,
we do believe we have one of the most beautiful aircraft that flies here.
Well, we're gonna have to get video footage next time you and Reade both join us. But a lot of what Beth you laid out there in terms of things changing is why we've got to get smarter when it comes to port logistics and what goes on there. Reade, I tell you, it is fascinating. One of my favorite site visits, and I've been on over 300 in my career. Hopefully, we'll get to 600 soon. Is my visit to the Port of Savannah. If you're in supply chain or if you're not in supply chain, folks, make a port visit be part of your journey. So, Reade, as you've kind of mentioned, your organization specializes in the final mile at the ports. Two-part question. What makes it so complex, right? Whether you're a practitioner or not a practitioner, and what should more supply chain leaders know about the final mile at the ports?
Yeah, great question. And by the way, the Port of Savannah down there is amazing, just coming right through the channel. Griff and Ed, the CEO and COO, they're amazing. And Cliff Pyron, who just retired as their chief commercial officer, some of the best leadership in the country. So not just a great port, but a great group of people. From an EDRAY perspective, there's 7 stakeholders that are coming together in this final import mile. As I mentioned, it's the shipper meeting the port, meeting customs, meeting dray, meeting trailers, meeting all these different things. And they have historically kind of worked in sort of disconnect. So A would happen while B is happening, while C is happening. And it wasn't really a workflow. It was more just hoping things happen and they end up at the same place, which is crazy to think about. The biggest shippers and the smallest shippers, they all have the same problem, is connecting these 7 pieces together. But I think that, so the complexity is there. The complexity is the scale game. It's the need to diversify post-COVID, to not just go through one port of entry, multiple, not just have one trucking company, multiple, and then sticking that back together operationally is really the hardest part of kind of what we're talking about. So it's not just a sort of visibility problem, it's an operational problem, and I think that's where what we're solving. In terms of like what people should know and the complexity that's out there, I think there's lots of folks focusing on sort of visibility only. Let's stitch together the data and trying to solve that problem. But we actually have a workflow problem. We have an execution problem. And if you don't solve the execution problem, then sort of the byproduct of that execution, which is the visibility, then falls extremely short. And the execution cycle can't then be built on top of it as it relates to new initiatives and new opportunities and new ways to move their supply chain forward. So you kind of have to build the first floor of the house before you build the second, third, and fourth going up in that analogy. So, yeah.
Love that.
Yes.
Reade. It's pointless to build a roof if we can't build the walls, right? And it's kind of one of the things you're speaking to much more eloquently than I. But Mary Kate, bringing you in here, we got the data exchange problem that Reade talked about, the visibility problem, and many others. But if we can't execute, why does it all matter? Mary Kate, your thoughts?
You knew I was going to be obsessed with that. The workflow, right? You've got to get the workflow right before you start to even look at the data around it, digitize it. I think that in something as complicated as port operations, someone tackling the workflow on that, I mean, I commend you. It's really hard operations in any business, right? But that's extremely hard, and I could not agree with that more.
Yeah, well said. No wonder Reade and Beth won all the awards at Field Day, and I bet plenty of others. I bet their trophy case is full. Can we squeeze a couple in there, Reade, in your trophy case?
Absolutely. We got a big office here. We can find some space to put it.
I love it. It's kind of like the supply chain exchange floor you got behind you. All the activity. It's invigorating.
Yeah, they're moving. They're moving. Hopefully,
all right.
It's good.
I bet they are. You both y'all's teams are on the move. Dan, weigh in there with what EDRAY and Reade and the whole team are up to there.
Yeah, I mean, just amazing bit of operation. I think this was a long time coming, and I think the opportunity around COVID. I mean, when we found EDRAY really through problems. Pat and I, Pat's on the carrier side, and I was on the shipper side, and we were trying to solve problems, just trying to get through COVID for ourselves. And I had about 38 tankers of product that was supposed to come off the West Coast, and that's where I called Pat, and that's where we got started with Venture 53. That's where we found EDRAY. And I mean, what this is, when we think about the opportunity of things coming into the country and American productivity, this is where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And we've got lots and lots of room for improvement with how the ports operate, kind of what Reade was laying out earlier. Lots of gains. I love looking at how different port operations are around the world, and all of them have their strengths, all of them have their weaknesses, but we got a lot of gains we can make here. And of course, it goes without saying, we won't get the panel to weigh in here, but we're keeping our finger on the pulse here at Supply Chain Now on the ongoing or lack thereof of negotiations that will impact Gulf Coast and East Coast ports. We'll see how that plays out. Okay. Hey, we got a special guest, folks. And Beth, I think you were talking pre-show about getting the show out to some members of your family. We got my mom, Leah Luton, on the line from Aiken,
awesome.
South Carolina. Great to see you, Mom. Always a pleasure to have you part of our programming. Okay. Speaking of big things ahead, big things here in the current state, big things you are doing today, but got to break out the shades because the future is bright as well. I want to ask all three of y'all, Beth, Reade, and Dan, in terms of if you look at the rest of this year and throughout 2025, what's next? And there's plenty. It's probably a long list, but if you had to pick one, what's next for Drone Express. Beth, what gets you really excited?
Well, we're excited now to be able to start rolling out our operation. We're starting in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So what's amazing about the Par 135 is this is the only way to fly beyond visual line of sight, which is really what has been, holding the drone industry back a little bit. But now we're able to go out and really show everybody what we can do. So I'm really excited. By the end of this year, we should have a lot of operations running, and we could be getting a lot of feedback on people seeing these aircraft in their daily life.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait. And the reality is just around the corner when it's very commonplace to see drones zipping everywhere in an orchestrated manner, right? That I'm sure the FAA is making sure to get folks what we need. Think of the cars and the trucks that are coming off the interstates in Atlanta and many other places. So a lot of good stuff there, Beth. We're excited and look forward to having you back. Before I go to Reade, hey, Michael Darden and DFM Data Corp is with us here today, talking about the importance of standardizing all the data, especially at the ports. Dan, Michael Darden was one of the presenters as well. So hello to Mike and the whole team there. All right, Reade, y'all been on the move, much like Drone Express, EDRAY team. Congrats on all the success to date, but I can't wait. What's one thing that you're most excited about in terms of the path ahead?
Yeah, just real quick, Scott, I do want to comment quickly on the Venture 53 piece. Dan and Pat and the team there with a number of their investors around the table. You've got groups that are investors that bring dollars. You've got folks that want to bring insight through different vehicles. And it's really neat to have a partner with these guys that not only back you financially, but also back you from a team perspective. The field day in Atlanta was kind of a manifestation of where all that comes together, but it happens every day. A quick text to Dan, a quick text to Pat. Hey, do you know this? Hey, do you know that? How do I think about this? And where should we go there? And then also the sort of investor to investor. I can call Beth. Beth can call me. Hey, are you struggling with something here? Completely unrelated industries, but then there's some commonalities from an entrepreneurial perspective. So hats off to the V53 guys and the team there. They're doing just phenomenal stuff. And I'm excited to continue to be a part of that group. Specific to EDRAY, the next year is going to be twofold for us. We've been very fortunate to grow just about 2 times year over year. This is our fifth and a half year.
Wow.
So really excited about our growth and our scale and our ability to kind of reuse what we built for continued scale on our side. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to grow double, and that's going to be our true north. And we'll do that in a very meaningful way. On top of that, you're going to see this very specific exception cycle and meeting finance and meeting some really neat things behind the scenes as we bring out things around our core solution that both we're excited about as well as our current customers that have been pulling us in that direction. So excited about what's to come. It's a big space, 43 million containers out there, and we're just
and we may have lost Reade for a second there. That happens, folks. It happens. Pick back up where he left off. 43 million containers, and we'd have more if folks would stop making small houses out of containers. Reade, we got to bring that to an end, right?
Tiny house nation. Yeah.
Right.
All right, a lot of good stuff there, Reade, and I really appreciated the front end of your response there. And I hate it sounds cliche, but it really is what I heard: the power of community on so many different layers and channels. Mary Kate, before I move over to Dan and get him to comment on what we heard there from Beth and Reade, what were some of your favorite elements of the future that both organizations are moving towards?
Yeah, well, I like kind of the beginning of the comments too, like you said, Scott, about how, founders and CEOs from other startups being connected with one another, even though they're in different industries, can always learn from one another. And I think the power of a company like Venture 53 is creating that intentional community, right? And as formerly being in a startup and looking for investors, I think, yes, obviously the investment and the money is a huge piece, but finding an investor or a partner that's going to work with you to make connections, that was always more important. And I know it still is.
That's right. That is right. Relationships still matter, and they power so much, especially in the startup community, greater global supply chain community for sure. And we've learned those lessons yet again as we fought hard to get into the post-pandemic era for sure. All right, so Dan, seeing Beth and Reade in action, whether it's field day, whether it's here today, whether it's what they do day in and day out, the things they talk about, the value that y'all have brought to the table, that's got to make your day. But what lies ahead for Venture 53?
Yeah, so fun. I mean, and thanks, Reade. And we started this actually around a brewery table during COVID. Mary Kate Love was actually at the table.
Yeah,
I was. The opportunity around where we, said there's a problem that needs to be solved, and no one's getting after it. And that was around early stage venture capital funding for supply chain tech with intention, as you said. And the intention is that all of our LPs are from the supply chain tech space. We don't take any money from outside of the industry, and so that increases the level of responsibility for us because most of our LPs know quite a bit about the space, but it also helps us with our portfolio companies. But what's next for us is we're in our third fundraise at $100 million fund, and we're going to put it right back into the same early stage venture capital in supply chain tech and stay current with that thesis. Part of it will be going to follow on to the existing companies that we have, and then much of it will be going to new companies. So we've got 23 companies that we're got in our portfolio today, and all of them are growing pretty well. I think the fun part about the supply chain tech space, and that's the piece around this, fool's rush in, is that when COVID happened, there was a lot of new money that came in the industry with people that didn't really know the industry. Right. They knew that the industry had a problem that was maybe could solve, and so that money's kind of recessed back, and now it's for the people that really know what they're doing in the space to get after the solutions in the space, and that's what we're most excited for.
Love it. Mary Kate, the future is bright for sure. We look forward to having Dan, Beth, and Reade back with us. And Mary Kate, as Dan was talking about that table that you were at as they were ideating and stuff, did Pat Martin, was he playing his guitar at any point of that session?
We weren't graced with that. No.
We were not graced. We were only graced by food, and we were sort of wearing masks and kind of trying to figure out
we were sitting outside. Yeah, that's right. So I can't believe the amount of progress, Dan. And I mean, that was only 3.5 years ago, 3 or 4 years. Right. Yeah. Wow.
Oh, come a long way.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see where we go next. All right. So really quick, while we got y'all here, and we're going to let y'all have your Monday back, because I'm sure the calls and emails and other Monday morning stuff stacking up. Really quick, Beth, if you could give a piece of advice for folks out there tuned in, whether they've been thinking about and dreaming about becoming a founder and getting into supply chain startup world, or maybe they're in the early stages of it, right? What's one piece, and there's plenty of others, but what one piece of advice you'd offer up, Beth?
I would just say, listen. A lot, you get into this and you think you have this idea and you've got it all figured out, and, investors and other people come and chip away at that. They're not just trying to, be that, do that to you for no reason. They're trying to see how you think and how your thought processes work. And if you could just listen, you might realize that they're maybe right about things that you should do in your company. So I think that's the most important thing. If you're starting a business, is not to just think it's your way or no way. Listen to your investors. They're your partners. Like Venture 53 has been for us. So that's the best advice, is to find not just money, find the people that can help you grow.
Love that, Beth. Really appreciate that. Reade, same question. What's one piece of advice you'd offer up folks out there?
Yeah, I think create a community around your solution, around your company, around your product, around your vision. I think going in it alone on doing something new to the industry, new to the space, creates a need statement that is only solved by getting accountability groups out there. And so whether it's V53, whether it's your shipper communities, whether it's your provider and stakeholder communities, and then even internally, how we connect in and outside our four walls, I think is super important moving this thing forward.
Outstanding. So what I heard there, Beth talked about the power of finding someone that can really make you be honest and potentially change your mind. Because you're not right 100% of the time. I'm probably right maybe 7% of the time is what I hear. So give folks that are going to tell you how it looks, what reality is important, and read the power of community in so many different ways, as you've really touched on a couple of times in your appearance here. Really appreciate that. Okay. let's do this. Let's make sure folks know how to find Beth, Reade, and Dan. And then we're going to get about our business. And Mary Kate, we're going to get your patented key takeaway once we bid adieu to our outstanding panel. Let's start with Dan White, founder and general partner with Venture 53. Dan, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, you can just go to venture53.com or Dan White at venture53.com. Pretty simple.
It's just that. And folks, you're up in Boston, you can track him down, maybe get some delicious chicken wings or beer or something. But Dan, we look forward to having you back in the ATL soon. Great to have you here and really appreciate what Venture 53 is up to. Beth Flippo. Beth Flippo. I was trying to combine your two names there. I got to slow down sometime. So Beth Flippo, CEO at Drone Express. How can folks plug into what you are doing and learn more?
So they can go to droneexpress.com or any of our socials. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, you name it. And if you ever are up in Dayton, I'll take you out to TJ Chumps and show you around, where the Wright brothers are from. And,
love it.
What makes it so incredible here. Yeah.
I love it. And folks, we're also, again, dropping the URLs for each of the organizations in the chat, trying to make it really easy for y'all to connect. All right. So Reade Kidd, co-founder and CEO at EDRAY. When you're not at Clay Sports Cafe visiting with Al, how can folks connect with you and the EDRAY team?
That's primary. No, I was kidding. So 3 easy ways. Number 1, edray.com. You can go there, request, connect, etc. My email, rkidd at edraycpl.com. So edraycpl.com. And then lastly, if you're here local in Charlotte, ever on the second Thursday of every month, brewery right there, 15 yards from our front door is called Hot Fly, 5 o'clock, second Thursday of every month. We host a nice little happy hour there most of the time. So come on by, chicken wings on Beth and beer on us.
Love it. Second Thursday of each month, 5 p.m. Eastern time in Charlotte. Folks, write that down so you can connect with Reade and the incredible community that he and the EDRAY team are building. We drop in, again, URLs, edray.com, droneexpress.com, and venture53.com. You're one click away from connecting with our outstanding panel. Well, big thanks once again. Mary Kate, stick around. We're going to get your patent key takeaway. Big thanks to Dan, Beth, and Reade. Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing to change industry, and can't wait to have y'all back. Have a great rest of your week, okay?
Thanks.
Hey, we told people, Mary Kate, that was going to be a home run panel, a rock and roll panel.
I love that. Yeah, it
was almost better than having Elvis, James Brown, and Taylor Swift all be at the same concert.
100%.
Kind of what we experienced. All right, so this is going to be a tough and probably an unfair question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you had to boil it down to one of your favorite key takeaways from all the ground we've covered here today, what would that be, Mary Kate?
Yeah, I just really love that, startups in general are typically created to solve a problem. And I think we saw that here today, right? Last mile delivery, port operations are, problems, or I guess opportunities, we could say, right, within supply chain. And I love the idea of companies setting out to solve those really hard problems. And I think that's what makes it so exciting to be connected to a startup, work at a startup, or even just follow along as a fan.
Yes. Well said, Mary Kate. And just think about it in a nutshell. You've got Drone Express becoming one of 5 or 6 companies to make it that far and how they're changing the game with drone delivery. That is remarkable. They're tackling the tough problems like JFK would famously spoke about. And then you got Reade tackling the huge opportunities we've got in the ports, right? And really, folks, y'all should get out and visit the ports here in the States and elsewhere. Interesting comparing and contrast there. But they both are tackling the big challenges out in the industry to change how the game is played and how we can all be moved together forward in different, more powerful ways. So good stuff there. Folks, y'all connect with Dan, Reade, and Beth. Also, speaking of connecting, Mary Kate, they also touched on the power of community, the power of relationships, and the power of connecting. I would add the power of intel gathering, and that's where that's the problem we're working on, right?
Definitely.
We're trying to equip our community and global industry with a better way of doing business. And this conversation here today was a great example of that. Mary Kate, I think this is a linked tree. This graphic I'm showing here today.
Yep.
Well, we want to make it really easy for folks to plug into our wide variety of programming and our community. And here's a couple of key ways. So folks, check out the link we're dropping in the chat, and you can do that. You can also reach out and say hello if you would like. So check that out. And here, just right on time, we dropped the link for y'all to do that in the chat. Okay, folks, big thanks to Mary Kate and Catherine and Amanda, the latter two behind the scenes, helping to make production happen. We stand on the shoulders of giants indeed. Big thanks to our rock and roll panel, Reade and Beth and Dan. Folks, connect with them, lean into what they're doing, the change they're driving out there. And most importantly, thanks to all of y'all for tuning in. I know we couldn't hit everybody's comment or question, but thanks for being here and being on this journey with us. Mary Kate, hopefully Chicago, the temps stay nice and cool. Look forward to seeing you again soon this week, huh?
All righty. Yeah. Thanks for a great show.
You bet. And folks, lastly, on behalf of our entire team here at Supply Chain Now, Scott Luton challenging you, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.